How we doing, everybody? Dominic going to reach you here for Who-Bangin Sports Talk. Back with another college basketball. This time some picks for our Sunday games. A lot of good games today. We had a good week of games, I'll tell you. A lot of, and yesterday, a lot of last-second shots-winning games, like an Alabama game. There's been OTs. We talked about Alabama. There was a couple of home court senior days that didn't pan out the way the teams would have liked it to, like Missouri, like Auburn, like Marquette, just to name a few. So, senior days isn't as cracked up as it usually is, and we'll see if that happens today. I put out a tweet yesterday on how senior days aren't the cap that it used to be, and that's why we have to change. As the sports betting changes, as it becomes more and more legal, more and more people are betting. Everything is changing on the landscape, and we got to change with it. The senior days with the NIL, with this portal and all that stuff, which I think is kind of hurting the game at this point. Senior days don't mean what they used to. But anyhow, let's get started with these games. I got 4 games for you. The first one is at noon. Michigan at Michigan State. Listen, we know this rivalry. We know these teams. They played a lot. We talked about them ad nauseum, not only us, but every other guy that does picks and stuff, and besides all the TV pundits and whatnot. But let's talk about what happened. Last time they played, State won that game 75-62. They came out in the second half and just destroyed Michigan by 17 points. They won that second half by, and that's something that Michigan State does very well, and that is to win in the second half. Their last 7 games, they have won the last 6 of them. Second halves, they have covered and won outright the last 6 out of those last 7 games, I should say. They beat Purdue in the second half by 17. They beat Illinois by 18 in the second half. They beat an Iowa team. They beat a Whiskey team. They beat a Maryland team. They beat some decent teams. Maryland's a good team. Michigan's a good team. Purdue, we know, is a good team. The only game they lost was against Indiana, and that was back in the early February or late January. And they ended up losing that game outright, and they lost the second half, I think, by only 1 point. But so just keep that in mind, and I'll be looking at that today, especially when they go down in the first half. They really dominate in the second half. But keep your eye on Michigan State in second half for a good live bet, a good halftime bet. About a minute before, I like doing a minute or two right before the half is when I like to put a live bet in for the rest of the game. Anyway, let's just talk about this quick, and we'll get to our games and let you guys get to put these games in. Michigan State, we know, is a good rebounding team. Michigan State, we know, is decent at holding on to the ball. They don't give up a lot of turnovers, and they don't create the most turnovers, but they don't really have to with this Michigan team that's terrible at turnovers to start. They've just been all year long. Turnovers have been just killing them. They're not besides that, the turnovers are killing them. Nothing that's killing them, I think, is their 3-point shoot. They chuck up too many 3-point shots. They were over 42%, somewhere around there, and they were higher at one point a couple of games ago. I believe they were maybe even at 45, 46%, something like that. But they shoot a lot of shots from the 3. Not that they make them, but they shoot a lot of shots from the 3. And one thing about Michigan State is they hold teams to 28% shooting the 3. So even if Michigan does get hot from the 3, as far as their ratio from attempts to making them, Michigan State's the type of team that could hold them down. Michigan is one of the worst turnover teams, like we said, but Michigan does have a good 2-point defense. They're in the top 25, matter of fact, in defending the 2-point shot. And Michigan State, talking about the 3, don't take many threes, and they don't take many 3 attempts, and they don't make many threes. They're not the greatest 3-point team. They depend on that 2-point shot and their foul shots. They're really good at that, and they're also really good at rebounding. So that's where their offense comes in. And Michigan defending the 2-point shot in the top 25. Michigan State defending the 3 very good. I think this game is going to be under the total. It was hard for me to go with a side with this game. Who knows? It's not a rivalry game because Michigan State but it kind of always is not. I shouldn't say a rivalry game. It's always a rivalry game, but it's not a revenge game because Michigan State did beat them last time out. But these games always seem, revenge type. Anyway, I'm sure Michigan has not forgotten what happened last time. But I took the under in this game, 147.5 minus 114. Next game I am on. That's a 12 noon game, by the way. Michigan State. Next game is 12:30. Iowa at Nebraska. Unranked against unranked. Now this team is a little bit different than the last game. First, let's talk about the seniors. Oh, by the way, in Michigan State does not have a lot of seniors, so it's not really a big senior day for them. So just to keep that in mind too, as we mentioned about seniors. I don't have the numbers right here in front of me with Michigan State, but I know they're not a big senior-laden team. But Nebraska is. Nebraska is a good senior-laden team. They're 4 of their top 5 starters are on are seniors, and in these unranked teams versus unranked teams, this is going to be big for them because they're last game of the season. So of course they're going to start the tournament soon, but these teams are going to be tough to do anything in that conference. But let's just talk about this game and why I took the over. But the over I took was 155.5. That was minus 114. Listen, the one thing about Iowa that we know on the road they don't play as well as they do at home, but they did, and they don't cover the game. They have covered only 1 out of the last 14 games they've covered. That 11 losses, 2 pushes, 1 cover. That 1 cover was an outright win when they were a 6-point dog to Rutgers. So they beat Rutgers outright as a 6-point dog. Other than that, they've been getting crushed on the ATS. Nebraska, this is a red spot. They lost by 10 to Iowa. Nebraska does have a bunch of seniors, like I said. We don't really know why. In Iowa, what happened with Iowa this year was that their big gun went out, Freeman. He's been out for a while, and they never mentioned why he's out. So who knows if that caused some kind of, rift in this Iowa team. Because I thought they would be a better team than they were this year. Nebraska has lost 4 in a row. They're 1-5 in their last 6, 2-4 ATS. So again, it was kind of hard to go with a side in this game. But I did, like I said, take the over. Nebraska is about in the middle of the road, about halfway in the nation on the road in pace, and where Iowa does run. Iowa likes to run, and they don't play defense. Nebraska is off a 116-114 loss to Ohio State. Nebraska is one of the worst 3-point defending teams. And one thing about Iowa, they do shoot the 3 well. But what they don't do well is defend the 2. So the defenses, they do shoot the 3 good. Nebraska does not defend the 3 good. Nebraska could be a little bit tired, even though it was last week that double overtime loss. I always find that what breaks down more when teams are getting to the end of the season and when teams are playing teams that are similar to their other teams. You would think that maybe it would be a lower scoring game because maybe some tired legs and stuff. But usually what happens is that the defense stuff is more than the offense when teams are in, you spend a lot of energy on defense. So, all those little factors, it's the end of the year. The stats, kind of mean less and less in my eyes. So what I did was I took the over 155.5 minus 114. And I also took a shot. It's the last day of the regular season. I took a shot with Nebraska team total over. Nebraska, sometimes plays a lot better than you would think they play. And they've been a weird up and down team. But I took that team total over 81.5 minus 129. So I put 2 bets on this one, over 155.5 minus 114, and the team total over 81.5 minus 129. I do see it went up to 82.5 in some sites. So if you can get that 81.5, I would try to grab it now. I think they can definitely hit that. And, and if it does go over to 155, then we have a very good chance of hitting both of those games. That is 2 games down, 2 to go. Next one is Minnesota at Rutgers, another big-time game today, 1 p.m. Let's see what happened here. will not be a real senior day. Rutgers plays their top 3 guys, first of all, freshmen. They only got 4 seniors, I believe, on the team. 2 of them are only in that top 7 rotation, top 8 rotation that Rutgers plays. So this senior day isn't going to be like a big, counting on seniors, a big to-do like Nebraska will be with their starters all being seniors, that kind of thing. Minnesota's slow, especially in the half court. They're a slow team in general, but in the half court, they're even slower. They're ranked number 340 overall in possessions per game. Rutgers, as we mentioned, is a young team. They're going to get better this year. It's a team to keep an eye on because they are a young team, but they are below average on defense. And they did lose the last 5 out of 7. The last game, they gave up 100 points to Purdue. They lost by over 20. And they did give up 84, I believe, to Michigan. Rutgers at home plays slower than on the road. There's almost 4 possessions less at home than on the road. Another thing is Minnesota is one of the 10 slowest teams in the nation. They also lost 3 of 4. Both teams struggle on offense. Both teams rank shooting the 2-point and 3-point about the same, around half of one, over 175. They're like in that half of the nation, on the worst end of the half of the nation of the Division I teams. They are 2 teams, like I said, that first of all, Minnesota. All of a sudden, Minnesota was losing at the beginning of the year. Then they started coming on strong. They've had a couple of nice wins in there, Minnesota. They were coming along. They were playing good at home. They seem to be getting better and better. Then they just hit a brick wall, and they ended the season not playing well. That being said, between these both teams, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Nebraska, the 1 p.m. game, we took the where is the total on this game? It's okay. We took under 143.5, minus 108. Sorry about that. We took under 143.5 at minus 108. That was the 3rd game I am on. The last game I am on is a North Texas at Temple, 2 p.m. game. Temple's big star, Jamal Mashburn Jr., has been out. He averages 22 points per game, which I believe there's only 3 players better in the nation, but he's not playing today. North Texas is a good defensive team. They're even better on the road. They're able to slow teams down, and they're basically only 10 teams. They're ranked number 11, so there's only 10 teams better at points per possession allowed on the road. North Texas also steps up to 3-point defense on the road. They allow teams to make only 28% of their 3-point shots. Another reason why I'm on the under, North Texas is only 1 team slower in pace in the nation than North Texas. So, with that recipe there, I kind of like the under also. So I took it. North Texas at Temple, under 135.5, minus 108. So that's what I got for you guys today. We got the Minnesota at Rutgers, 143.5 under. That's a 1 p.m. game. We got Michigan at Michigan State at 12 noon. That's 147.5 under, minus 114. We have the 2 p.m. North Texas Temple. That is at 135.5, minus 108. And what time is that Nebraska game? 12:30. The 12:30 game, Iowa at Nebraska, I took over 155.5, minus 114. And I took a shot with Nebraska team total over 81.5, minus 129. And that's what I got for you today. So quick show on a Sunday, 15 minutes. Give you some time to get these bets in if you like what I said. If you don't like what I said, you go against me. A win is a win, right? Me, as long as we are winning one way or the other, I'm happy. So let's leave it at that. So we'll be back again tomorrow. I'll have some more conference tournament breakdowns put out for you for tomorrow. There's Southland starts today, and I don't know if a bunch of them start tomorrow or Tuesday. I think they start Tuesday. Nothing starts tomorrow. Tuesday, we got a whole bunch of tournaments starting. ACC, and there's a bunch of them. So I'm going to MEAC. So I'll be working on those throughout the day. We'll get those breakdowns out tomorrow for you. And check out the Southland I have put out. McNeese really dominated that tournament, but there's some good betting trends in there that you guys might like. And there'll be a couple ways to make money in that Southland tournament. Even though McNeese is minus 500 to win it all, there's some favorable spots leading up to that game. So check that out also at Who-Bangin Sports Talk. Anyway, I'm Dominic Gunricci out for a Sunday. Hope everybody has a really good day, and we cash those tickets.